Good morning, everyone. Thank you for being here. We'll get started. We're going to be respectful for your time. Wow, great turnout today. Thank you so much. All right. I think I know many of you, but just in case, my name is Gene Che, and I'm the elementary school principal here. This is my 6th year here at ASD. I'm also joined by Joy Brabant today, and she's the associate principal, so we work together to support the elementary school. And two more people that I want to introduce you to are Monica Giku and Heather Kingston. They're here. We work closely together. Most days, Heather is over supporting the middle school and high school, and Monica works for ELC and the elementary school in terms of all things in terms of curriculum. So in this case, it's Islamic education. Heather kind of oversees that, and Monica with world languages. And we'll talk a little bit about the Arabic social studies and the implications for today. All right, so thank you for being here. All right, so it was interesting. When we were kind of planning this talk, we had kind of a different idea at the very beginning in terms of what we usually do. But I know kind of discussion and a big change for this year is to do with the schedule, so we kind of changed that a little bit, and that's going to be the focus for today. If we have time, then we'll talk a little bit about those other things, but I think this is most timely on people's minds. So whenever we have big decisions, small decisions, or we kind of think what to do, I think this school, more than any other school that I've been part of, really looks to its mission, core values, and attributes in terms of what do we do and why do we do what we do. So as we kind of thought a lot in terms of scheduling or working with kids or the programs that we do, we really use this as our North Star. And hopefully you'll see elements in that in terms of decisions we make and what we'll talk about today. So in terms of just our decision-making process or kind of our thought process, a couple things. We're recording this, so you can share it afterwards. And one thing I know I need to do a better job at is about communication. So we'll also put all the big highlights of today's talk into an email because I know not everyone can be here, and we'll send that out. So that's something we aim to do, to be more communicative with all of you. Also, if you don't mind, we'll go through the presentation. We met with the GCF yesterday, so I think we have a lot of your questions, maybe not all of them answered. So we'll go through the presentation, and then at the very end, we'll open it up to questions and answers. That way we can make sure that we get to the end of the presentation. Does that sound okay? So if you have questions, please either write them down or type them in, and we'll have time to answer them at the very end. So I just want to share kind of what our thinking process is. So number one, when we make the decisions that we do, right, even from the small ones to the bigger ones, right, number one, we do have to respect our Dubai school context, right? And I think we all agree with this. We all love and working and living in Dubai, right? And we know that with any country, right, whether wherever you are, there the rules and regulations, there's the guidelines that we all have to follow, and I think we all believe in that. So that's number one that drives a lot of what we do, right? It's not everything, but at least it gives us the guidelines in terms of here's where we're allowed to kind of make decisions. How do we best support our mission, given the Dubai school context? Okay. Number two, right? With that, we want to make the ASD experience to the best that we can. Right? The school is closing in on its 60th year anniversary, and we've been successful for many, many years. I think we've been around even longer than the KHCA and some of the organizations. So there's always kind of the ASD way. So whenever we kind of make the decisions, we always try to keep that front and center, again, under the Dubai school context. Right? We do all that we can under that. So yes, we teach reading, but kind of what we believe is the way to teach, right? In terms of programs, library programs, makerspace, it's all under that thinking. And finally, right, of course, we always, like we want the best school experience for the kids, right? What's best for kids? Sometimes it's what's best for the adults, or teachers, not necessarily. We try to prioritize the student experience whenever we can. So for instance, I'll give you an example. For instance, in elementary school, I believe in daily PE. Right? I think every kid should be active every day, but given the context and kind of our guidelines, the 4.5-day work week, we just can't do that, right? So we know that's good in terms of kids being active, so you see that reflected in 2 recesses, where I know some schools only have 1, right? We have 2 PE, we have 6 encore teachers, because we believe in this experience. But in the end, we have to fit into the Dubai context. Does that make sense? So I want to share that because that's what drives almost all the decisions that we make. Okay? So, I think a big topic that people want to talk about is the ES schedule. So we want to share kind of what it is and kind of the thinking behind it and what the implications for your child will be. Okay? So I want to acknowledge a couple things, right, before we kind of share the schedule with you, which some of you already kind of know about, and you'll know the specific schedule at back to school night. because there's still a little bit of nuance, and what your child's fourth grade teacher's schedule is very different than maybe down the hall, let alone in the grade 1 context as well. So of course, this goes without saying, we want the best for all students, right, in whatever decision that we make. Number 2, again, we want valuable learning experiences no matter what your experience is, right? Whether you're a strong student, you're an average student, or you need a little bit more support, right? We believe in the rich experience for everyone, and that's what we strive. This is an interesting point, that the school experience is not the same. So we just want to put it out there, right? Even before this new schedule, right? If you take guided study, that means you don't take Arabic, right? There are already different experiences. So as much as we try in the elementary school to have the same experience, right? It's not possible already. And given kind of our new schedule, you'll also see that. So we just want to put it out there that we cannot give this exact same experience. Can we supplement? Can we do different things? Can we adjust? Absolutely. And you know this if you are a middle school or high school parent, they don't all have the same experience, right? As you know, Islamic education is, the way they do it is in a course and an elective. So whatever you choose, if you choose that, then you're not choosing something else. So it's not the same experience. But I would say in elementary and ELC, we have more of that, but we just want to put it out there that we cannot guarantee exactly the same program for everyone. It's just how it works. So I want to acknowledge those things as we kind of talk about the schedule. All right, so the three big new, new programs is 1, Arabic Social Studies, 2, Islamic education for all registered Muslim. We'll talk a little bit about what that means, as well as this targeted time or win time. It doesn't matter what we call it exactly, we can work on the name, but we'll tell you exactly what this is and the implications for your children. All right, so Arabic Social Studies. Monica, can you just share just a little bit? Today is not really about kind of the details in our curriculum, but if I can ask Monica just to kind of share a general overview, and then I'll talk more about the specifics and the implications to the schedule.
Thank you. Good morning. I'm very happy to have this conversation with you because I think we have so many things that we want to share. And to talk about Arabic Social Studies, this is a new program that personally I'm very excited about. It's a program that's designed for students in Arabic language arts, our native students, so-called Arabic A enrolled. So the way we see this program is giving them a chance to learn content through Arabic and also learning the language through content. The program itself contains elements of world geography, history, Emirati culture, Emirati traditions and customs, civics. So it's a lot of what you find in a regular social studies program. In this case, it's taught in Arabic from grades 1 through 9 at ASD starting this year. And it's designed to give the students an experience where they get to learn about our local context through Arabic. Again, I think this is something that's very valuable for the development of our kids because they will get the chance to learn all of this content through a different language, through Arabic. We learn everything that we learn at ASD, we learn it through English. So giving them a chance to experience learning content through a different language, through Arabic, is I think, a wonderful opportunity. We will follow guidelines from the Ministry of Education, but as we always do, we will select content through the lens of our ASD core values. And we want also to select content that supports the learning that happens in the language classes. So whatever text they will be exposed to, or whatever activities or reading or writing that they will have to do in the social studies class will support their learning in the language classes. So we are looking very carefully through the content. We are being very selective about the things that we are choosing from the Ministry of Education curriculum. And then this is what we are going to share with our students. We also want this experience to be very engaging. So we've been talking to the teachers about project-based and about integrating arts and music and dance and different things in this context. So it's not just, today we're learning history, today we're learning geography and so on. So it's an engaging program where kids actually like to go and learn things that they're not necessarily exposed to in Arabic in other contexts. So this is, in a nutshell, how we view the program, an exposure and an opportunity for kids to learn about our local context in Arabic so they can also grow their language this way. Thank you.
If I can just kind of take a quick aside in terms of the idea of kind of compliance and what we need to do. So in general, I'm a rule follower, right? Try to do kind of what we need to do, but that shouldn't drive everything, right? We shouldn't do it just because right? The government tells us so, or so, right? For a long time, we do what's best with the core values, of course, under the guidelines. So some of the things that you'll see today are the guidelines in terms of how many minutes we're supposed to do per week. So sometimes you just have to follow the rules. Wherever we can, of course, we put the ASD touch into there in terms of, as Monica described, how we do things. So for us, for this year, Arabic Social Studies in the elementary school for all registered students, 40 minutes per class, and it happens on Friday. And I'll show you some of the schedules coming up as well. Sorry, it would be going, I know there's a lot of probably questions. So, it is taught by our Arabic teachers. So a lot of teachers that are familiar with your children, sometimes they will get the same teacher, sometimes they will get a different teacher. And as Monica said, we pretty much follow the guidelines for this year in terms of what the curriculum is. Because it's our first year and we're figuring things out, it will not be on the report card for year one. And I can see us moving towards it, but we also want to figure out, right, what are the standards, what are the teaching goals before we report it on it. So year one, it will not be, right? And again, the participation is for anyone who is an ALA student. Okay, and I'll describe a little bit because in talking to GCF, maybe we want to have some clarity about that. And that's what we'll talk about, what an ALA student is versus not in the requirements. All right, so this is very quickly, it's not really the focus. ALA and AWO is not the focus, but this is what happens for if you are registered an ALA student. So there are 4 classes, 50 minutes each from Monday to Thursday, right? That's the same as what we've always had. There's also the Arabic Social Studies, as we said, on Fridays, right? So who is an ALA student? Either on the KHDA registered nationality, right, from an Arab country. So that's the passport that you register in. Right, we know in some cases, right, for instance, if you have maybe a Canadian passport and an Egyptian passport, it's which one that you registered with, right? And I don't want to get in, but that matters, which one is registered. So if it's an Arab passport, your child, whether they know Arabic or not, they're in ALA. Okay, so that's kind of the rule, that's kind of our guidelines. Number 2, there are some families that Arabic is really important to them, right? And we have a number of students who maybe led with their Canadian passport, but it's important to them, their family. So what we do is we invite the families to come contact Monica and myself, and we just want to support the family and do what's best for your child. If we know that outside of school, right, you speak Arabic at home, or that's part of your life outside, that makes sense. We think that's a better chance for your child to be successful. If it's, for instance, in my household, if the child steps out of class for 40 minutes and you don't hear any Arabic for the rest of the day, that makes it much harder for language acquisition, as you can imagine. So that way we have a discussion. So for those 2 groups who are in ALA, you will take Arabic Social Studies for this year, okay? So for AWL students, right, again, it has to do with the registered nationality, the leading passport that you register with. 4x50 AWL classes happen Monday to Thursday. And then on Friday, they have an encore class, which you'll see in a little bit. Okay, so just want to make that clear. Again, that's not the focus of today, because I know you want to hear about the other programs. All right, so for Islamic education, maybe if I can ask Heather just to say a few words. We will have more time on September 30th to talk about how Islamic education is throughout the whole school, because it's offered in elementary, middle, and high school as well.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks. Welcome, everybody. It's great to be here. I'm often in middle and high, so I actually love being in elementary. So I am part of the Islamic education team from grade 1 up until grade 12 and work with all those great teachers to develop the program. Really, our philosophy around it is that we know that the values of Islam really align closely with the ASD core values. There's so many similarities there, and so really that's what we're trying to emphasize with our program. So that the kids kind of see those connections, but it also reinforces what we believe here at ASD. In terms of the content and the curriculum, we do follow the KHDA curriculum, and we make sure that there's consistency, like there aren't some like rogue things happening, we follow that. And again, like in the social studies, we're picking the content that closely aligns with what we believe here at ASD. And as always, we make sure the instructional practices are engaging and the kids have a great experience and they just love doing all the learning and the curiosity, and that's our focus for that program. And we really see it as an opportunity to connect with who we are in Dubai and with our kids and their histories and their families. So we're really excited about the program. The team is really excited to sit around and have these conversations. We all plan together to make sure that there's kind of alignment And again, I'm excited to learn as we go through this process. And on September 30th, when we're here, you can ask all the questions and we'll have the teachers to kind of share what they'll be teaching. So please join us on the 30th. All right.
Thank you. So for the elementary, so what we've scheduled it is during kind of target time. We don't know what the name exactly will be, but it's against homeroom time, right? And the participation has to do with, in terms of your registration on your religion, right? My understanding is when you, once upon a time, maybe registered, right, for ASD, it could have been this year, could have been in the past. If it says Muslim, then your child must take Islamic education. If your child has anything other than that, could be other or another religion, then they are not in Islamic education, is my understanding. Now, there's been questions in terms of change and things like that. We can talk about that as well. We go by the registration, right? That is in Power School. It's interesting. Some parent, I guess once upon a time, maybe for the school and courses in the elementary, it didn't matter as much. We've heard from parents, I don't even know what it is, or it's incorrect. So of course, we can help you update, right? There's a process to update the registration so it's kind of accurate. Okay, but we can talk about that at different times. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the differences. So if you have a child enrolled in Islamic education, again, for grades 1, 2, and 3, right, they will have 3 classes, 40 minutes, it counts as a class, right? So it's 120 minutes per week, and right? And then for grade 4, 5, all the way up to, I think, grade 12, right, is 80 minutes per week, and they count it as 40-minute classes. So I don't know if you're allowed to do 80 minutes in one, right? You're supposed to have a 40-minute class, or maybe that might happen in high school. It might be a little bit different. But 80 minutes, I don't think we have any other class that's 80 minutes. So for elementary, it's for 40 minutes. Again, KHDA registered religion signifies in or out. Okay? So if your child is not enrolled in Islamic education, we have something that we talk about called either targeted time or what I need time. And it's exactly those times where your child goes into it. So if I can take a quick pause for a moment. So as you know, the first 2 weeks of school, we started where we paired Islamic education with encore classes. That was something we planned since last year. We thought for a host of reasons, right, that was a good idea. As you know, the elementary schedule, the kids experience everything, and there isn't really an elective time, unlike middle school and high school. So where do you pair it against? And there's lots of different choices. You can put it against a lunch, you can put it against a recess, you can put it against a library. The library is not every day, right? You can put it against reading, math, right? Science time. There is no good time to put it, right? So we made a decision, put it against encore. And we knew there's going to be effects with that. But it's interesting, and if I can be honest, it's interesting when you see certain things on paper and when you live it. So the first 2 days of school, we saw it right away, right? And it really spoke to all of us, right? So please know that it wasn't just a knee-jerk reaction to kind of make this switch. So even after the first day, second day, kids were coming out of Islamic ed classes, even though the teachers they actually had fun and enjoyed it, they also saw their friends going to encore. And I think I've told this, I'm sorry if I'm repeating the joke, but when I grew up, my favorite subjects were PE and recess. So if you asked me to lose those, it would be devastating. For some, it's art. And we have amazing art teachers. You've seen what we do. Music programs. And you can imagine even to the minutia, the finite details, when we do a music share, because of how the schedule works, some students would have had maybe 3 practices before the music share, and some would have had, 7, 8, just more than that. So our encore teachers, of course, they were really supportive, but we heard it from them right from day 1, day 2, day 3. But all you had to do is the 2 Islamic classes, Joy and I were standing outside, and you saw their faces, and you heard all the things. Why don't I get it? It was creating divisions. And if you think about the ASD experience, we believe in all these things. We believe in encore, right? We have more than a lot of other schools, right? Because that's what we think is, right? Yes, academics, always, right? Every school had been at. But I think what makes ASD special is those things that we value, and we put staffing into it, and we build it into the schedule, right? We have 6 encore teachers. We have 3 instructional assistants in each of those. We have a strong social emotional learning program. We have 3 counselors. That's unheard of, right? For 5 grade levels, right? We believe in these things. We just renovated a beautiful makerspace. I hope you get to visit everyone back to school now. So we have these exciting times. Unfortunately, where you put it up against, you have to miss something, right? It's just really hard. I think you get benefits. I'm part of where I grew up. Part of the religious education is what my parents chose for me, and I'm thankful for it. Right? A quick aside, in Ontario, the government supports, it's interesting, the public system and in the Catholic system, they don't choose another one. So my mom moved me at one point towards it. I think she said there was more homework or something like that. Right? So it's really interesting. But I mean, that's part of who I am, having a religious education. So we believe it. It's just really interesting that you're trying to do both in one school. Right? And I get it, all the schools are doing it, and we will make the best of it. So I just want to give you a quick aside in terms of why kind of we did make that change. Please know, we are responsive, right? If we see something that we can fix or make better, we're not going to wait a whole semester, a whole year, or 3 years to change it. But please know also, it wasn't just because some parents were louder than others or things like that. At the end of the day, we go back to the student experience. And when kids came out of Islamic Ed, or they came out of music and art, you saw it, you felt it, right? We're parents, we understand that too. So please know that's why. So again, we all know that it also creates other challenges, but we feel much better in terms of, okay, everyone gets on call, which we've always known. Okay, so just a quick side. All right, considerations. As we know, for Islamic Ed, we've been talking about it for about 2 years for now. How can we do this creatively, thoughtfully, so it has the least impact in terms of kids missing out? So we've asked a lot of questions too. Can we do it before school? Can we do it after school? Can we do it during a winter break? All those things? No. Islamic education has to occur during the school day. Okay, so that's one of our considerations. 2, what we try to do, and I think we have done this, we are successful in this, that we don't want kids to miss core instruction, right, with the home teacher. Everyone deserves that, and we've been able to maintain that, so that will happen. Okay? Again, as we talked about from the beginning, we want the ASD school experience, not necessarily what someone else does. Even though we're informed by what other schools are doing, we still want to be true to our mission, core values, and attributes. Again, least disruptive, and we can kind of argue how disruptive it is. It will, as I said right in the beginning, right? When you take Islamic Ed, yes, that is 35, 40 minutes where you're missing something else. So what is it that you're missing, and how can we work around that? And finally, we did consult other school schedules. It's interesting, as the guidelines come, schedules are getting closer and closer, right? Every school is kind of working within the same guidelines, but I see more similarities with other schools than ever before, right? I think we're all moving towards something similar. All right, so let's talk about the schedule. This is what it actually happens. So we just chose a grade 1, 2, because it's a little bit bigger on the screen. 4, 3, 4, 5, you will see your child's schedule on Thursday night, but the only thing difference for 3, 4, and 5 is just where the blocks are. The blocks are still there. Okay, so as you can see, we still have 2 kind of recess, snack. I think this is a good idea. We're trying to save some time. So we crushed it a little bit, so kind of snack is with recess, but of course we won't rush the kids at the beginning of the year. Maybe it's a little bit longer, but we will work towards that as well. I guess a fact of the schedule for elementary is we lose time with transitions. And you can imagine that to get to a cafeteria for a grade 5, let alone a grade 1 class, takes time. So people don't realize every one of these gray bars is theoretically 5 minutes, sometimes it's 6, right? So it's anywhere from 30 to 40 minutes a day we are losing, just moving kids. All right, and that's just a fact, right? Imagine getting to the library, you have to get there, let alone ELC going to the library, that's half a day. No, it's not half a day. It's a field trip, right, to get to the library from the ELC. But that's something we value, so you build it in. Yeah, and you try not to lose too many kids along the way. They do a great job, right? So one thing we did to try to save time is if you could have these blocks together in the class, writing and reading, then you don't need a transition time. So whenever possible, some things are not possible. You have to get to the cafeteria. But from the cafeteria to lunch, right, maybe get a little bit less reason, like it's really tight, but we did everything we can and we got some efficiencies out of that. Sometimes 5 minutes, 10 minutes makes all the difference, and we tried to save that time. So by doing that, we were able to create, right, something called the intervention time, win time, whatever you want to call it, that we'll talk about, that we haven't had before. So if you look at last year's schedule, it's very similar. So we actually haven't lost time for reading, writing, and math. We've been more efficient. But what happens is, for instance, that used to be like a social studies science time. But we didn't account for library, SEL classes, makerspace. Those are 3. I think those are the big 3. What's that? Yeah, SEL classes. Those were the 3. So most teachers, to schedule an SEL class, you would pick probably a social studies and science. This is maybe most people would not take it out of reading and writing. So when you go to library, it's out of, social studies time. If it's SEL, it's out of that. So even though there's a lot of pressure on that time, it became even less, right? And we know, historically around the world, international schools with their social studies and science time, it's a lot less than the national average in the US because of languages and others. So with that pressure, on top of that, we're losing even more time. So when you build a schedule, it's dedicated. You won't lose that time, right? So this is a time we didn't have. We kind of found it. We kind of built it through efficiencies. So the big question is, what do you do during that time? And that's what we'll talk about in terms of what the win time or targeted time is while the kids go to Islamic education. All right, so again, this is the 35-minute block that we'll spend a lot of time on, and what do you do during that time? So as you can see, it's library, where you have your library classes. It's when you have your counseling. Counseling right now, SEL classes, are officially to teach our program. It's once every other cycle, so 12 days. Same with Makerspace as well. And then Islamic, where the requirements are, depending on grades 1, right? 1, 2, and 3, 4, and 5. All right, Friday is a different ball game as well because of our social studies requirements, and this is what Friday looks like. 1, 2, and 3 are more similar. 4, 5 are similar because of Islamic Ed, so that's why we just use these two as example. Okay, so grade 1, 2 are very similar. So everyone starts with the morning meeting. You do have literacy or homeroom time, and then for some kids who are registered in Islamic studies, that's their third class that they need to for grades 1, 2, and 3. Right now it's paired against the homeroom time. Okay, for some kids as well, you know, as we talked about, Arabic social studies, and those kids go encore, like we talked about, we just have to pair it against there. Everyone gets the morning recess, so we still believe in running around and getting outside eventually. And then we have math time for grade 3. So you can see for grade 4, it's very similar. The blocks are largely the same. There isn't that requirement for Islamic education, right? There isn't that third class. So that's why you have the Arabic social studies, right? As well as the encore. And that's true for grade 5. So there's actually 5 social studies on that day. So those teachers are teaching throughout. And there's 5 encore sessions. So what we're going to do is we have an A, B, and C, because for the class, what's important to a class is on one of the Fridays, you will have music, another one you have art, another one you have PE. So similar to the ELC, you have an A, B, and C schedule, so that the kids rotate through the 3 encore classes. All right, so this is what it actually looks like over a 6-day cycle. So if you are registered in Islamic Ed, and this column is, or this row is for non-Islamic education students. So for instance, day 1, if your class has Makerspace, everybody gets Makerspace because that's what we think everyone deserves, right? You're not missing out. On day 2, the kids register for Islamic Ed. That's where they go during that yellow block of time. The rest of the day is exactly the same. We're only talking about that yellow block of time. For kids, we'll call it target time or whatever this is called. Day 3, everybody gets the targeted time. Okay, and then as you can see, it goes through, again, in the course of 6 days, 2 library, 1 SEL class, and 1 Makerspace class. Okay, so this is over 6 days. So how we actually live that out once we include the Fridays looks like this. Monday to Thursday, we'll do our count cycle 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Fridays is either A, B, or C. So over the course of 3 weeks, we will get through 2 cycles, as you can imagine, because there's 4 kind of full days. Does that make sense? All right, so you can see, whereas library, maybe you don't have it in week 1, but you know in the next 2 weeks, you will have your library time. Makerspace, unfortunately, it's right 3 weeks probably before you get to it, but I think we have some creative ways where if a class, like the grade 4 class, is doing a lot of projects, we can find some other time. Maybe on the day 1, that they don't have Makerspace officially, you can also get them in there, or there's other times that are available. We want to give the experience to everyone, but also as needed when special projects come up. So this is what it looks like over the course of 3 weeks. All right, so questions in terms of what's happening during targeted time or win time, right? And this is very common. As I did the research, more and more schools, not only in Dubai, but around the world, are doing something like this. Because the guidelines are, thank you, is that you're not supposed to teach brand new material when the kids are in Islamic Ed. So that makes sense. You can't just keep going with your program and the other kids will catch up. So what do you do during that time? Because these kids also, right, it's a lot of time. What do you do for 35 minutes? So we want to make it rich. We want to make it useful and valuable. And one thing that we really appreciate in doing this is we do have more dedicated time with some students. So for some, it's their intervention. Normally for learning support, right, we pull the kids out of certain classes that we did in the past for reading, for writing, right? And it's not optimal necessarily, but it's the best that we can do, right? So this could be a dedicated time for that. Reteaching, some kids just need a little bit of a bump, so it could be a small group where you're kind of working on that. And perhaps if your child is doing well in these, maybe it's an enrichment time. Actually, it will be an enrichment time to do some special projects, something different, right? So we would use data. Right now we're doing screeners at the beginning of the year just to find out where kids are in reading and math especially. And they're also doing some writing on demands to find out a little bit more. Classroom observations, right? Assessments that they're doing. Sometimes we do a pre-assessment to see what kids know. Formative assessments to see how we're doing and what the instruction is next. And eventually we will have map data right towards the end of the month. We'll have that. So we'll use all that information during this targeted time to kind of either small groups, right, to give students kind of that extra time to do some work. So again, the focus is on small group instruction, and we're actually already working with our teachers. This is fairly new to them, but we have another faculty meeting Wednesday, and we're talking about what that win time can be, how do we use data, right, and how could we even flexibly group. If 2 homerooms are together and we have an IA and a learning support, could we regroup the kids in different ways to give more, right? It doesn't always have to be math going on at that time. It could be, but really, what do kids need at that time to provide a little bit of a bump? So one big thing that we heard was, okay, what about my kid who's in Islamic Ed, right? You're missing out on these times. So the short answer is, I can't lie, is yes. But we've never had this time before. And if we go back, actually, can we go to the Monday, Thursday, go back a couple of schedule? So keep going, keep going. One more, yeah. So, one more, yeah. So what we've done before is we've just found time. So imagine if you don't have the yellow block, the learning support might be pushing in here or pulling out kids, right? They're doing the same thing for reading. So what we imagine is during the yellow block, if we're prioritizing some of the kids who are in front of them, right, the remaining kids, it actually frees up some time maybe during these times to work with those kids who were in Islamic Ed. Does that make sense? So I'm not saying you can only work on those kids though, right? I think we do a really good job giving kids really what they need. So whether you have the win time or not, right? Whether it's staying in at recess, whether it's pulling groups, whether getting an IA, whether it's getting someone else in there, we've done that always. This year it'll be even more important because we know that distinction, right? Because, right, those kids will not have the same win time as everyone else. We get that, that's just the fact of the schedule, right? They have less. So we're doing everything we can to make sure that all those other kids are not falling through, they're not missing out. Yes, they're missing other time, that's a fact. But where can we use these other blocks when all the kids are together to prioritize their time? So when you pull a strategy group, right, my sense is most teachers are like, if all 4 are in Islamic, why wouldn't a teacher, right, spend a little bit more time or a lot more time? Because during the other win time, maybe I would have seen another group more often. Does that make sense? So again, it's not perfect, it's not apples to apples, we know, but I think, I know that the teachers are thoughtful about that to make sure that everyone gets, right?
But shouldn't it be apples to apples?
I don't know how you do that when you give up something, right? You're getting Islamic Ed, right? So anyways, we'll get into that, we're almost, and then we'll get into that process. All right, so some of the concerns that we've heard, again, we don't have the full answers, this is the best thinking right now in terms of what we're doing. Children will not get what they need, right? And I don't think we believe this. I think we have dedicated students, we have the resources, we have learning support counselors, right? That we will make the adjustments, right? This is new for all of us. As we make adjustments, here's some good time, right? Here are different times during the day. Here's something you can do after school, right? Sometimes teachers maybe can come in 15 minutes for the next 2 weeks as we work on this. I know our teachers are dedicated with all of learning support people that we can, right, adjust the needs. We've always done that. That's not something that we want to kind of give up. There will miss learning opportunities. Yes, they will miss. It's just the fact of when you go to Islamic Ed, you are missing something else, right? You can say when you go to win time, you're missing Islamic Ed as well. So yes, we said that right from the beginning. We acknowledge it is not the same experience, but we will do everything we can, right, to kind of close that gap and make sure that those kids, right, do get learning opportunities. The ones that we prioritize, as you can see, right, on the encore subjects, makerspace, library, right, and SEL. We think that is good for everyone. But the other, the academics, we think that we can find ways within the rest of the day, outside of the 35 minutes, to address that. So they will fall behind academically. Again, that is projection, that is a worry that we have, and probably you do too, right? But please note that we will do what we can, right? We'll do everything we can to make sure that they don't, right? We have systems in place. I know we just came from student of concern meetings. We have them probably at least 3 times a week anyways, in terms of, all right, what does this child need? Right, we bring in the school counselor, we bring in the school psychologist, and we have great resources and a good system to make sure that kids don't find, or what supports that we can provide them. Right, we're doing this already, we're going to continue doing that. Children have negative feelings of going to one class instead of another. I think already it seems better, we can feel it in the hallways, right, they're going to Encore, that's again. So will we get that with Islamic and WIN? Perhaps, that's something that we are of course going to be very, very sensitive to. But already from what we've seen, it is better. It's not perfect, right? But it is better that all the kids are together for PE and music and art and all those classes. Okay, I think those are the big things. And then all right, so final thoughts. Thinking how to close this, and one thing I keep coming back to is what Dr. Dragan King has said, and I remember being in this room last year or the year before, and he was up here, he was talking to mostly middle school and high school, and I believe most of this. And he said for our kids, right, we have a really good program from pre-K all the way up to grade 12. For elementary, right, and the focus wasn't on elementary, was what do you want for your kids in elementary? Of course, you want them to be able to read, write, do math. You want them to be kind, happy, and have the skills that they can be moved forward to be successful. And I think that's the heart of it. We know kids will learn how to read and write, right? We know they will do math. And we really hope, we're really trying hard this year, even more so, on belonging and making them feel, right, to be happy coming to school. We know it only gets more rigorous, more exciting, right, more demanding. Middle school, you have more choices, you have different classes. High school, AP, right? Our track record seems to suggest that our kids, by and large, are doing really well, right? If you're projecting into university already, our kids get into great places, right? And to us, that should be the hat. So we can talk about the little bits, and could my child get a little bit more of this? Absolutely, and we will. With your homework teacher, with us, we're happy to do that. But if you step back for a second, right? For almost 60 years, I think we've been doing this pretty well, not perfect, right? And challenges will always come our way, right? Whether it's from THDA or ourselves or from the board or from all of you. But I think overall we have a good experience, and this is one of those things that we're learning, right? It is a challenge. Right, we're learning from it, we will be responsive of it, but I think overall, right, we think this is a really good path forward, and we will only get better with win time and how we manage, social, emotional, and the differences. We ask for your trust, right? We work hard, right? We're parents too, we get it, so we're really trying everything we can. Again, we don't do necessarily knee-jerk reactions just because, right? We are really thoughtful, but we're also responsive when we think we can do something better. Why wouldn't we? Right? So we ask for your trust, right? A little bit of patience. And again, share, talk to us how your experience is, how your child's experience, right? Which may be the same or different than other people. And of course, we're going to be watching very carefully, right? Already we've seen some things better, but this is the first week as we work with the Islamic ed teacher, right? Reshifting some kids, as we look at our schedule, as we kind of work with teachers, as I said, tomorrow afternoon, what do we do with this win time? How do we make it as valuable as possible? And additionally, how do you make sure that when it's not win time and everybody comes back, that you're addressing their needs as well? So please know we're having these discussions. We don't have all the answers yet, but I'm confident with the faculty that we have, right, what I've seen here for 5 years, that we'll be, okay with this. A couple things that we just want to highlight before we go. Back to school night, as you know, is on Thursday. So please, enjoy the night and meet with all the teachers. You can meet the Islamic ed teacher, you can meet the Suha, you can meet all the teachers, and definitely please come to our new makerspace. It's wonderful. School opening ceremony, as you know, you're invited. I think it'll be the same. I think our parents are up top. Is that right? So some down below. So please join us. That's such a great event. The next time we could meet is on the 23rd. We're going to talk about a little bit about the ES report card. We want to share some information. And as Heather mentioned, Islamic Ed. Thank you for coming.